Hey, yo, what is going on, guys? We got a brand new episode of Buy or Bust for you guys today. We're going to be going over the Invisible Woman first steps. Is she the best snap pack card of the season, or is she going to fall flat? We're going to go about the good, the bad, some key synergies, counters, the floor, ceiling, as well as 3 decks for you guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So in case you guys did not know, the first steps Invisible Woman is the brand new Series 5 card releasing on Tuesday with the ability activate this turn. Your end of turn abilities happen twice. This is what it looks like on screen. You're pretty much going through, it happens twice. Just, this has to, of course, be on the board, and you can't, activate until the following turn. But there's a lot of, different cards, kind of a little bit narrow at the same time. When it comes to these end of turn cards that kind of work with Sue Storm, but this ability is pretty crazy because you'll see there's not really too many counters to her specifically. Maybe the cards with end of turn abilities, but this is very strong. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these key synergies for this card itself. So one of the most focal key synergy cards we're going to have is going to be Sunspot. Sunspot, whenever he end of turn, you don't use your energy. Sunspot absorbs that energy, which happens twice if you activate it with Sue Storm. So you'll see this probably in a lot of those different, high Evo style shells, those Fantastic Art kind of things. You'll probably play both Fantastic Art and Sue Storm, if we're being honest, just because they synergize so well together. Next, of course, we're going to have First Steps Human Torch. Most of these Fantastic Four cards do have abilities that are end of turn abilities, whether it is the Thing, Johnny, the Torch, Mr. Fantastic. Herbie's the only one that doesn't really have the end of turn ability. But Sue does buff those other cards. Also in Surfer, this helps with that, with Johnny and with, Mr. Fantastic. And then, of course, next we're going to be talking about a little bit Small Ball. You guys know we love playing some Small Ball, like Athena, Havoc. Those are 2 main cards that have end of turn abilities that are strong, that, you probably are playing Human Torch. If you saw the video from Thursday, you're playing Human Torch in that list now, too. So you have 3 different cards that have end of turn abilities that, Invisible Woman really helps since they go off twice. But there are, of course, a few counters for this card at the moment. Of course, when Super Adaptoid comes out, if it comes out the way it does, it's the way it's datamined, that'll be a deliberate counter. But if not, because datamines are subject to change, we have Red Guardian if, Invisible Woman is in a lane by herself. It's a 5-power card, so Red Guardian won't necessarily target it all the time unless, she's by herself and you guys don't really have priority. So you don't really have a way to protect it. And then Shadow King. Shadow King, of course, to the cards that she enables to, have the end of turn abilities go off twice. Shadow King is kind of the counter there. But other than that, there's not really a deliberate kind of counter to her besides RNG. But let's go ahead and talk about the good and the bad for this card. So, when we talk about the good, one of the first things we have to think about is it works through Cosmo. It's an activate ability. You can tuck it behind Cosmo if you are running into a lot of Red Guardian, or if maybe Super Adaptoid comes out the way it does. And, you can use it when you want to. If you don't have all the end of turn cards on the board just yet, after you've played the cards, you can activate. You don't have to activate at the beginning of the turn. You can activate in the middle of the turn. You can kind of just activate whenever you want. Once, you've had this card on the board for, the turn it's played. You can kind of activate however you see fit, however you want to combo it. And they're end of turn abilities too. So you activate at the end pretty much anyways. I mean, you could activate at the very beginning since it's for end of turn cards. Anyways, it's not like they happen right as you activate. So just keep that in mind. And it's a strong ability because, having these end of turn abilities, they're locked behind having to be end of turn, functionalities. So I'm thinking Bruce Banner is one of those cards too. If you don't hit the Hulk the first time, you have another role to be able to potentially have him transform into Hulk again. That's pretty strong. I mean, not saying Bruce Banner is a very strong card, but having the odds to have that happen again is really good. Athena getting another +3, turning into +6 on a turn, getting another +4 on game, or even prior to that, because you've discounted stuff with Mr. Fantastic First Steps, possibly. There's a lot of just different ways you could really scale with power, which I think really just kind of helps this card out. And then I think lastly, it's got a good base power. It's a 3/5. Its downside is that it's activated and it only works with end of turn cards. Other than that, it's still 3/5, which is the premium stat line for a 3 cost right now, which is really good. But when it comes to the bad for this card, it's an activate. So if you do draw this late, unless Joe Costa's already out, which she's not if she's data mine the way it is, and I'm talking about data mines, I'm thinking they're going to happen the way they do. It's an activate card right now, so they don't work until the following turn. So if you play this on turn 6, you don't have a turn 7, you don't really have a way to activate this. So Sue's just a 3/5 on the board at that point. No value for you there. And then, end of turn cards are still a bit narrow. Not saying like there's no end of turn cards, but it's not like you can play this in like a million different decks. You play this in a good chunk of different decks, but it's not like you have a lot of cards that really just get a huge bit of value from this. And then, of course, it's potentially predictable. If you have the end of turn cards on the board and you have Sue on the board, they know it's going to happen at some point, so they can kind of play around that. But, of course, with Activate itself, since you get to choose when to activate, they don't necessarily know exactly when you are going to do it. They can kind of just assume within, turns 4, 5, and 6 if you're able to get Sue on curve. But now talking about the floor and the ceiling for this card. The ceiling for this card is pretty high. If you have 3 to 5, like that's not even like the most. You can have, I think I have a deck here where that's like 8. End of turn, different cards. You get value from Invisible Woman there, but I'm thinking like 3 to 5 is a really good ceiling. It happens twice. That's good. The worst case scenario, the floor is you draw this late, it's a 3-5, and you don't have any end of turn cards you can really get to go off twice, but it's a 3-5 on the board. But I'm thinking like more on average, you're going to have 1 or 2 cards that are end of turn that you can get value from Sue, and I think that's all you really need. Like if you're playing the Surfer deck and you just have Torch and you just have Pedro, like those are the only 2 cards that are end of turn, but like they do good for what they do, so you don't need to like shove in a whole bunch of other ones. So that's pretty solid for Sue itself. But let's go ahead and jump into the 3 decks we have. So the first deck we have is going to be Thena's First Steps. It is a kind of just newer take on the deck we posted on Thursday that we found on Untapped. But we took out Cassandra Nova and we put Invisible Woman in instead. Because we're using it for Johnny, we're using it for Havoc, we're using it for Athena. You can use it for Mr. Fantastic. Like you just have a bunch of different ways to be able to use it to get value. Maybe you're not using it on Havoc because you don't want Havoc to be in Shang-Chi range, or maybe you are using it on Havoc, but it's at the very end of the game, and I think it should work with Havoc at the end of the game. Of course, you'll take some testing to see if Havoc does get +8 at the end of the game, or if it is something you have to do prior to that. I think it should work that way, but it's a 3-5, getting hit by Agent Venom, turning it to a 3-3 is not great, or hitting it with Bast probably isn't the best, but like if you're able to get the functionality out of Athena and Havoc and Torch, I think it's okay for it to get a decrease in power because you're using those other cards to scale itself. Next, of course, we're going to have So High, So Green, which is just a high Evo, just Fantasticar, Sue Storm kind of list here. This is kind of probably not the most optimal version. I haven't played any of the High Evo Fantasticar stuff because I don't own the Fantasticar at the moment. But this is kind of where my head went, like I was talking about with the Bruce Banner interaction. If you don't turn it into the Hulk, you had the other 30% free chance you roll again to be able to potentially turn into the Hulk. It doesn't make it a 50-50. It still is another 33% chance to roll into the Hulk. Unless I'm mistaken there. I'm interested to see how it works with She-Hulk. I wonder if Invisible Woman First Steps with She-Hulk, because She-Hulk works with Fantasticar, I wonder if Invisible Woman counts that as twice a proc for She-Hulk as well. That She-Hulk honestly could get the double, like the reduction twice. And I'm curious if the cards also do have to be on the board. Like I'm wondering if Hulk has to be on the board for the Invisible Woman First Steps activate to work. I'm assuming it does, but I'm curious. Maybe it doesn't have to be. And then because that's one of those passive abilities that happens no matter if it's on the board or not. And then moving on to our last list, we have Invisible Power. It's the Surfer style list. It's a greedy, and I mean another greedy Surfer list. We have Torch. We have Pedro. Makari is technically a end of turn card too because it runs out of the board end of turn, but like Sue doesn't really do anything that. But you also have Frigga. I've been actually liking Frigga a lot in this style list because Frigga getting a copy of like a Torch, a Brood, or a Shaw, having you to have a bunch of different options, even a copy of a Surfer, so you can have just power scaling in a bunch of different ways to get better Johnny value. Like, I think Frigga is an interesting out here. You could maybe put that as like a Carter, or you could do like the Cosmo. You could do another 3-drop tech card, but that's kind of what I did to just be a little bit more greedy here. And it's just, Invisible Woman's a 3 cost, so you just gotta plug it into Surfer. But let's talk about this card itself. So I am very high on this card. I believe it is a very strong card. The only counters being Red Guardian and Shadow King. And Red Guardian is if this card is pretty much by itself. Because it has 5 power, more often than not, this is not going to be able to be hit by Red Guardian. And what it does for end-of-turn cards in general is really good and really strong. It's fairly flexible. Like I was saying, it's not the most flexible card, but it's got a bunch of different kind of shells you could throw it into to get value. And then I think if they were to adjust it, they would take off a pointer to a power to make it a 3-4. Something more similar to Esme is kind of where my head's at, which I kind of wish Esme was just a 3-5, even if it still set the power card to 4. I think setting card to power to 5 would be crazy. But I would see that as maybe one of the potential changes for this card, which is why I say you guys should buy this card. This is what I think is the second best card of the season. I think Pedro, of course, is the first best. This or Torch interchangeably. I think now looking at it, it's going to be this is the second best card. Maybe this is even better than Pedro. Who knows? But this card is absolutely incredible. I would spend your resources, especially if this is something you enjoy playing or these styles of decks are something you really enjoy as well. But as always, guys, as always, resources are not the most come and go kind of thing in Snap, or they are more come and go. I think maybe that's the saying. But resources are not super abundant, especially when it comes to the tokens, which you have to use tokens to be able to open these snap packs. You know, if you want to get Sue, you totally should. If you don't. We got the Herald season coming out the week after next. So, we have a brand new season. July freaking flew by. Freaking flew by. So, if you guys are more excited for the Herald season, which the Herald season is going to be very fun. I am excited for the Herald season. Maybe we'll do some cool new stuff here on the channel. I'm thinking about it. But we're going to be trying to do some more deck guides for these Grand Arena decks. So if there's anything you guys would like to see, please let me know down below. But yeah, at the end of the day, guys, you got to do what you want to do. What'll make you happy. This is a video game. This is something that's supposed to be bringing you joy. And if this game is not bringing you joy, then I am very sorry. Try and find something that does bring you joy. But, play the cards you guys want to play. Some people might think it's cringe. Some people might not. Some people might hate you for it. Some people might love you for it. At the end of the day, this is a game, and you get to play what you want to play because no one gets to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. These are all just suggestions for you guys. These are our opinions on this, and that's what other people's opinions are on what you play. But please don't play Doom 2099. But anywho, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Definitely also feel free to catch me live on Twitch. But until then, it's been real. God bless, and Tucker out.